I used to believe that love wasn't measured by a paycheck. My husband, Daniel, used to tell me that every chance he got. "You're the heart of this family, Emma," he'd say while kissing my forehead before leaving for work. For 15 years, I believed him. When our first daughter was born, we made the decision together that I would leave my marketing job and stay home. Childcare would have cost almost as much as my salary, and Daniel's career was taking off. It seemed practical. I didn't see it as giving something up. I saw it as investing in our family. I packed lunches, helped with homework, attended every parent-teacher conference, managed doctor appointments, paid bills, planned birthdays, and somehow kept our home running even when Daniel traveled more than he stayed home. When he earned promotions, I celebrated like they were ours, because I truly believed they were. Friends often joked that I had the harder job. Daniel would smile politely. "I couldn't do what she does," he'd say. Back then, those words felt genuine. Years passed quietly. Our daughters became teenagers. Daniel became a senior executive at a technology company. Our mortgage was almost paid off. From the outside, we looked like one of those families people admired. Then, small things started changing. Daniel stopped asking my opinion before making financial decisions. He began saying things like, "I'll handle it." At first, I appreciated it. Life was busy. Then, "I'll handle it" became, "You wouldn't understand." One evening, I suggested we renovate the kitchen. He looked at me and laughed. "Emma, renovations cost real money." The sentence landed harder than he probably intended. I smiled anyway. "I know," he shrugged. "I earn the money. I just know what makes sense." I remember standing in that kitchen after he walked away. The same kitchen I had cleaned almost every day for 15 years. For the first time, it didn't feel like my home. I told myself I was being sensitive. Marriage has seasons. Everyone says that. Months later, Daniel started introducing me differently. "This is my wife. She stays home. Not she raised our daughters, not she sacrificed her career. Just she stays home." The words sounded smaller every time. One Saturday, we attended one of his company's charity events. Everyone talked about careers, investments, business trips. One woman smiled kindly and asked what I did. Before I answered, Daniel laughed. "Nothing glamorous. She's been a stay-at-home wife forever." The group chuckled politely. Someone changed the subject. I smiled through dinner, then cried quietly in the car after we got home. Daniel rolled his eyes. "You're making too much of it." I felt embarrassed. I told the truth. That sentence stayed with me for weeks. One afternoon, I opened an old storage box looking for Christmas decorations. Instead, I found a folder from my old career. Performance reviews, awards, business cards, photos of me giving presentations. I barely recognized that woman. Not because she'd changed, because I'd forgotten she existed. The next morning, I updated my resume, not because I planned to leave, because I wanted to remember who I was. I started taking free online courses after dinner. Daniel noticed eventually. "What are you studying?" "Marketing," he laughed. "For what?" "I just want to learn. You've been out of the workforce for 15 years. His tone wasn't cruel. It was dismissive, as though my future had already been decided. I didn't argue. I kept studying. A few weeks later, I accepted a small freelance project helping a local nonprofit with social media. The paycheck wasn't large. It didn't matter. When the payment arrived, I stared at the notification longer than I probably should have. It wasn't about the money. It was proof. I still had something to offer. Daniel barely looked up from his laptop. Nice little hobby. Hobby, not work, not effort. Just hobby. That word hurt more than I expected. Around the same time, I discovered he had met with a financial planner. Without me. When I asked why, he answered casually, "I handle the finances. We've always made those decisions together. Honestly, Emma, It's easier this way. Easier for whom? The distance between us wasn't loud. It wasn't dramatic. It was quiet. 100 tiny moments where my voice mattered a little less. One evening, our oldest daughter, Lily, came into the kitchen while I was cooking. She watched me for a minute before speaking. "Mom?" "Yeah? I don't think Dad realizes how much you actually do." I smiled. "It's okay." She shook her head. "No, it's not." Hearing that from my daughter broke something open inside me, not because she was criticizing her father, because she had noticed. A week later, Daniel came home unusually cheerful. "I talked to an attorney today." I looked up immediately. "An attorney?" I've been thinking. My stomach tightened. "I think we've grown apart." The room became impossibly quiet. I want a divorce. I couldn't speak. 15 years. Gone in one sentence. He continued calmly. "It should be straightforward." I finally whispered, "What about everything we've built together?" He sighed. "You were a stay-at-home wife." Then he looked directly at me. "I earned everything." Those words echoed in my ears long after he left the room. A few weeks later, we sat across from each other in a mediation office. Daniel's attorney slid a stack of papers across the table. Then Daniel calmly said the sentence that changed everything. "You'll understand, Your Honor. My wife never really contributed financially." I looked down at the documents, and that's when I noticed something neither Daniel nor his attorney expected me to see. The papers listed every asset Daniel believed belonged to him. The house, his retirement accounts, investment portfolios, savings. His attorney had highlighted the income he earned over the years as if it told the whole story. I took a slow breath. Then I looked at my own attorney, Rebecca. She gave me the smallest nod. It was the first time that day I felt completely steady. When it was our turn to speak, Rebecca didn't raise her voice. She simply opened another folder. "Mrs. Carter left a successful marketing career by mutual agreement to care for the children full-time. During those 15 years, she managed the household, supported Mr. Carter's career advancement, and enabled his extensive travel. She placed several documents on the table, school records listing me as the primary parent, calendars showing every medical appointment, tax records, emails where Daniel thanked me for keeping everything together while he traveled, performance reviews from his company praising his flexibility and availability." Rebecca smiled politely. That flexibility existed because someone else was doing unpaid work at home. No one spoke. For the first time, Daniel looked uncomfortable. The mediation continued for hours. No shouting, no insults, just facts. When negotiations ended, the settlement looked very different from the one Daniel had imagined. The law recognized that marriage was a partnership, not a competition over paychecks. I received my fair share of our marital assets, including equity in our home and financial support that reflected the years I had invested in our family. Walking out of that building, I didn't feel victorious. I felt relieved. Not because I had won against Daniel, because I had finally stopped believing I had to prove my worth. Over the next several months, I rebuilt my life one quiet step at a time. The nonprofit I'd helped recommended me to another client, then another. Soon I had enough freelance work to register my own small marketing consultancy. It wasn't glamorous. It was mine. I chose my hours. I worked from a small office near my apartment. Every invoice I sent reminded me that my skills had never disappeared. They had simply been waiting for me to believe in them again. Lily visited often. One afternoon, she smiled as she looked around my office. "I always knew you'd do this." I laughed. "I didn't." She squeezed my hand. "You taught us that taking care of people is important." She paused. "But now you're teaching us something even bigger." "What's that?" "That taking care of yourself matters too." I carried those words with me. Months later, Daniel called unexpectedly. I owe you an apology. I stayed quiet. I really believed money measured contribution. Another pause. I was wrong. I thanked him for saying it. Nothing more. I didn't need him to rewrite the past. His apology didn't define my healing. It simply became one small chapter in a much bigger story. Looking back, I don't regret staying home with my daughters. Those years mattered. They shaped our family. But if I could tell my younger self one thing, it would be this: never confuse unpaid work with worthless work. A paycheck measures income. It does not measure sacrifice. It does not measure love. It does not measure the thousands of invisible choices that hold a family together. Self-respect doesn't arrive all at once. Sometimes it begins the moment you stop accepting someone else's definition of your value. Today, I still make dinner. I still call my daughters just to check on them. I still believe kindness is strength. The difference is that I no longer disappear inside those acts of love. I know who I am. And this time, I will never forget her. If this story touched you, please comment and subscribe. I have one question for you. Have you ever underestimated your own value because it wasn't measured by a paycheck? Let me know your answer below.